Hi.
Hi, how are you?
How are you? Yeah, I'm okay. What's your name?
My name is Dave. I'm from Canada. And you?
Yeah, I'm Tiffany and I'm from Vietnam.
Tiffany from Vietnam. Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
What would you like to talk about today?
Yeah, today I want to discuss with you about a topic about the large or small company. Yeah. Um, the question is some people prefer to work in a large company, others prefer to work in a smaller company. So which do you prefer? Yeah.
Uh, well, I've worked, I guess, most of my life. I've worked for large companies. I worked for like a major telecommunication company in the United States that did cell phone uh, provider. I worked in like the sales and support with them, uh, in a a section of their customer service department, which had about 2,500 employees. But I mean, that was just one part of the company. The whole sales and customer support team was about 10,000 people in the United States, Canada, and the Philippines. Um, I've also worked for HP, uh, which is a computer company in sales and marketing, and so they have a approximate or they had approximately 12,000 employees at the time when I was working there. And most recently, I've worked with an insurance company in the UK, which has about 500 employees. So for myself, all my experience is with large companies. But then I've also had my own businesses, which would be classed as small, small companies, like where it was just myself and four other people working in the company, and those were exciting. Uh, but in terms of benefits and that sort of thing, I think working for large companies is better. Myself,
So why?
well, in terms of like having benefits, so like healthcare and stock options, and and being able to shut off work when you leave your job, leave work for the day. Working for a larger corporation is better because your free time is your free time. When you work for a small company, it isn't always your free time,
Yeah.
if you understand what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about yourself? Which do you prefer?
Yeah, actually, I have never worked because I'm still a student.
Right.
But according to others' advice, they said that work in a small company will make like the company will have uh, more attention for me, like because the company just have um, a few people, so like we have more chance to develop, and maybe the director maybe will pay attention to me more. Yeah.
Right.
And I think that's right. And I consider that after I finish studying, I'll want to uh, work in a small company. Yeah.
Yeah. And what type of field are you studying at university? What's your major?
Actually, I have uh, gone to university before, but I dropped out of it, and now I'm studying English. Yeah, in a residential school.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so you're in a
just
residential school.
just English. Yeah,
Yeah. And prior to and so when you do go out and seek employment, what type of work would you be seeking? Like what type of industry would you be wanting to work in?
Actually, have I haven't found my my interest yet in my passion. Uh, I don't know, maybe something related to English, because now
Really?
I'm studying English. Actually, after I dropped out of university, I didn't know what to do. So my sister told me, "Yeah, you can study English." So I start studying English, but I didn't do it with any specific reasons, but
Okay.
because I have a dream job, and yeah.
Well, I mean, it's awfully difficult to when you're young to like map out where your career is going to take you. Like for me, for instance, I studied history, and uh, and uh, and I was specifically focused when I was going to school. I was specifically focused on becoming a museum curator, right, and doing research in sports history, specifically hockey history. That's what I was. That's what I was studying. That's why I went to university for, right? I graduated, and in Canada, most museums are publicly funded. Okay, it's through government funding.
Yeah.
And at that time, the government was cutting back the money that they were giving for those sorts of activities. So I had studied to do that. There was no money from the government to do it. So it's like, okay, now what do I do? And so I went into management of businesses, and so and then through that I learned information technology. You know, I went back to university and took in information technology, and then you know a master's in business administration degree, and so you kind of it you know when life throws you curveballs, you have to keep running. You know, basically, take the direction that life gives you, and build on that. Uh, in You said you live in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how are the English language schools there? Uh, are there opportunities for teachers?
What do you mean?
Uh, like you were saying that you were one of your possible outcomes would be to teach English. Uh,
Yeah. I say that I want a job that related to English. Actually, I don't like teaching, so I don't think that I'll teach English in the future.
oh, okay. What about translating?
Yeah, but I think my English level now is not enough. Maybe I don't know. Yeah, maybe tourist guide. Uh, yeah,
Tourist guide, that sort of thing?
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's fantastic. And the tourism trade in Vietnam is booming at this point. There's a
Yeah,
lot of there's a lot of tourists going to Vietnam.
yeah. I think there's a lot of tourists in Vietnam, and yeah. And I think it's a field that have potential. I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I have another question for you.
Yeah, definitely.
Do you enjoy working in a busy environment or a more quiet setting?
I I thrive in chaos. So the busier the environment, the more noise, the more things going on, the better for me. Um, like when I came to work, right, I never really had a set list of items to do. Like, I'm not meticulous in the fact that I need to have things done in order. You know, there are people, they have a set agenda for the day. They have to do those things or it drives them nuts, right? When I worked, I had a list of things that I wanted to do, but uh, item one might become item 10 and item nine might become item two, of things that I'm doing, or something completely out of left field, or something that I wasn't anticipating could become my main focus. So I liked, I always liked chaos when I'm working because it's more exciting, it's more invigorating, and I seem to always get more done when it was loud and lots going on and there's an old saying that chaos creates cash. And so in those sorts of environments, the ones who can rise above, uh, you know, create more opportunity for themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what are the things that you love the most about work?
About work, um,
Yeah.
I guess right now the thing I love the most is that I'm retired.
Get you tired?
I retired,
Oh
so
yeah.
that's what I like the most now. But it was meeting people. When I was working, it was meeting, just meeting new people, having those sort of interpersonal interactions, and that's part of the reason why I'm on Cambly now is so that I can still meet new people and talk so.
Yeah. So, do you spend a lot of time on Cambly?
Um, I generally do, I guess, about 15 to 20 hours a week, uh, mostly in the early morning here.
Oh,
Uh,
so it's early morning. You are
it,
in UK now?
I'm in Eastern Canada,
Oh, yeah. Okay.
so it
So,
is 8:30 in the morning here.
yeah, and it's half past 7 p.m. in Vietnam now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So,
you're 11 hours ahead.
so, which do you prefer more, knowing all your coworkers or satisfied in knowing a select field?
When I when I worked, I try to um, I try to learn everybody's name because especially people that worked in and around me or for me as a manager. Every morning, I would greet everyone as they came to work, and I believe in something called the 1 minute manager, which is a is a is a it's a theory of management that every day you should have an interaction with every one of your employees that is at least 1 minute in duration that is positive for that employee, so that they get the feeling that you know their name, you're interested in their lives, however, and that and you're giving positive encouragement, you know, um, and so uh, I typically greeted every one of my employees every day, you know, hopefully normally first thing in the morning, or when they first started their shift, so that and I try to know everyone's name. Now it's not always possible to know everyone's name, but just to try to remember something about everyone is the best skill to have.
So, yeah, like so you gather close with everyone, or just like a few people?
Well, as a manager, managing employees, you can't become too friendly with your employees, like because at some point you may have to fire them, and if you're friends with them, it's difficult to fire your friend. So um, I would, I never really associate it with people outside of work that I work with, because work is work. Uh, Friends and family are separate, right?
Yeah.
So my friends are not people that I work with. Yeah,
Yes.
if you understand what I'm saying. Yeah,
Yeah. 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 That's all the question I have.
yeah. And how about yourself? Do you have positive interactions with your classmates?
Yeah. Um, when I was in secondary school, I was an active student. I know well about like every classmate, and I get along well with them. But then in high school, like it's new environment, and like I don't like um, I don't socialize well with them, and I was kind of isolated. Yeah,
Right,
and I get close with some of my classmates, and that situation continued when I went to university. Yeah, but now in my residential school, I get along well with everybody because I after like a long time being isolated in high school and university, I realized that I need to like be sociable in a
yeah,
community. Yeah.
yeah. And high school and university are difficult times. You know, you're learning new information. You're being thrown into a new environment, and and it and people of that age can be really cruel. So
Yeah.
it's everywhere.
Actually, like not having friends is one of the reasons that I left university. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And what were you studying at university?
Yeah, I studied law. Yeah.
Law. Okay. Yeah.
But
Fantastic.
actually, my sister studied in that university, and then uh, and at that time I didn't know what I like to do. So
Right.
my sister told me to to enter this university, and I did that. I registered this university, but actually I didn't like law. Yeah, but now I still don't know what I like.
Well, there's lots of time. You're young, so
Yeah.
you know uh, it's it's not always essential to know exactly what you want to do. You know, and sometimes I can tell you that I have friends that I went to school with who still don't know what they want to do with their lives, and they're 50.
Yeah.
So one of my
So
yeah, okay,
so when you went to University of History, do you think that you like history?
I do, I do.
Mm-hmm.
I I think if I had the ability to earn a living, uh, as like a historical guide or a history teacher in schools or something like that, I would enjoy doing that. I, I like one of my hobbies now is to read histories of various countries. Probably after talking to you, I'll go look again at the history of Vietnam and how because it's piqued my interest. Like one of the things I always ask people is what in their city where they're from, what is a place of historic significance and why. So where you live, what would you say would be the most historically significant event in your city's history?
Yeah, I live in the countryside of Vietnam. Yeah, in the north of central Vietnam, and um, yeah, Vietnam is a country that suffer a lot of like wars from United States and France.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, and it um, it has a I think a battle that have a 10 woman died because in the tunnel. I don't know, and then it is like a icon of my uh, history of my province. It name
it,
is
it, there was a battle which people were in a tunnel that collapsed.
yeah. Actually, I don't know about it much, but like they sacrifice their life to like to fight with their uh colony. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Uh, I mean, we weren't in Canada. We weren't involved the in that war. Uh, Although, I mean, it's something that we do learn quite a bit because of the uh, we're close to the United States in terms of culture and all that other stuff. So a lot of the history of the United States, we hear about that here. And actually, when I went to school, there is a book that we read that was based on 1950s and 1960s in Vietnam.
hmm
The book is called The Quiet American,
yeah,
and he was a CIA operative that was helping the French prior to the American involvement. So I mean, it's like so we we learn some aspects of it, but not a lot.
yeah,
And there's always two in history. There's always more than two or three or four or five or six perspectives in every event. You know, um, so.
yeah.
But
So
what do you know about Canada?
not much. I just know that it's in the north from American, and yeah, I just know the Toronto city.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is it a big city?
it is. It's the eighth largest city in North America and the largest city in Canada. I don't live anywhere near Toronto.
Yeah.
I live I live in a city on the east coast of North America or on Canada. I'm closer to New York City
Oh yeah.
geographically than Toronto.
Yeah. Okay. So, so I have an so I have to spend time for another student to speak. So I think it this is the end, and thank you for spending time speaking with me today.
And I thank you for your call. You have a great day.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.